I don't feel any less ethical in doing this, but for me, I feel it's evidence that it's something within my nature, and therefore I have had to come to terms with that. I don't feel any less ethical in doing this. That was part of the identity crisis. Do I not care? Am I not spiritual? Am I evil? Am I unconscious? You know, all these things come to your mind. It's a massive undoing. I don't feel any less ethical in doing this, and I've had to find peace in that, and I am praying and showing gratitude, feeling gratitude more so, for every meal I consume. I don't feel any less ethical in doing this. But I don't see myself as caring less. I don't see myself as unethical. But for me, yeah, as I say, I don't feel any less ethical in doing this. Speaking of ethics, I guess that's a segue. As many of you may be aware, I founded a clothing company called Ethics and Antics several years ago, which more recently changed its name to Ethics, and originally began as a vegan clothing company targeted towards vegans with vegan slogans. And so I've taken the decision to step down from my role in ethics, to step down from receiving any future pay or salary from ethics. I don't feel any less ethical in doing this.
Two observations real quick, and then I am out. Tim Shieff was thrust into a position of prominence and took on a role as a leader in the vegan movement for reasons that are random, arbitrary, and meaningless, and yet more meaningful than most. Really, if you think about it, Tim Shieff became famous because he appeared on television competing in a peculiar sort of sporting event. He then took that moment in the spotlight and capitalized on it, starting a vegan clothing company. He toured around the world, appearing at vegan conferences and events, most notably, to my mind, LA Veg Fest, giving lectures and speeches on, you guessed it, ethics. And, you know, he took on this prominent leadership role. The facts and factors that put him into the spotlight and then let him capitalize on that to become a leader, well, let's just say they have nothing to do with his level of innate intelligence. They have nothing to do with his work experience or, I don't know, any books he may have read. Doesn't have to do with knowledge or acumen or insight or ability. Doesn't have to do with any of his, political positions, his opinions, his program of action, his plan for the future, his promises for what he would do if elected. It has nothing to do with the kind of qualities that are normally under consideration when picking out a leader in any kind of social or political movement. And make no mistake, ultimately, veganism is not just a diet. It's a diet that's attached to a political movement pressing for social change. So yeah, as with all the other people who ended up in that position in the last 5 years, it's kind of no surprise when it turns out that he's terrible at it, that he's weakest precisely in his area of professed greatest strength, namely ethics, and that his position in the movement soon folds. Compare this to someone like Gary Yourofsky, compare it to any of the other faces around the boardroom table, the different people who have risen to prominence and soon enough fallen in taking on similar leadership roles. As I say, not even for similar reasons. Most of the time, it's for reasons even worse than this.
A few moments later.
what is the future for any movement that's organized in the way that we're organized, or, to be more honest, for any movement that's disorganized in the way that we're disorganized? What if Oprah Winfrey had become vegan? Would she now be the overlord of veganism? I mean, it's ridiculous. It's hard to imagine Oprah Winfrey doing a worse job than Tim Shieff. One of the kind of canny and cynical responses I used to get when I would point out just how bad our leaders were in veganism is people write back and say, oh, well, you're just trying to say that you would be a better leader. And I would often write back saying, no, no, no. I'm telling you that anyone would be a better leader. We really have a problem with leadership so profound and so awful that we need to look in the mirror and ask, how are we choosing these people? Literally, who is putting them on? Who is giving them a platform in the most literal sense? Who is putting them on stage? How is it we keep doing this to ourselves again and again and again? Because it's not the exceptions to the rule. It's the rule. It's not just Tim Shieff. It's not just Gary Yourofsky. It's everyone. Quote-unquote social media influencer Stella Rae was promoted by PETA, People for the Ethical Treatment of Animals. PETA had a vegan clothing video on their YouTube channel approximately 1 week before she went public in admitting that she was not now vegan and had not been vegan for 6 months. Who put you on, Stella Rae? I don't even blame Stella Rae. She's an imbecile. Stella Rae has no redeeming qualities to recommend her to being in a leadership position in the vegan movement. Who put her on stage at VegFest? She was very literally given a platform, put on stage, the same way Tim Shieff was. Who gave her a platform at PETA, People for the Ethical Treatment of Animals, at all of these agencies? And let me tell you something. I know better candidates, even just within the city of Los Angeles. Don't tell me that it's because Stella Rae is good looking. She's not that good looking. Trust me. I mean, come on, throw a dart at the map. You can find a better looking vegan woman in Los Angeles if it's about looks. Obviously, it's not simply about looks. There's some other set of factors here that are selecting these people, even if they're random, even if they're arbitrary. And they have nothing to do with intelligence. They have nothing to do with ethics. They have nothing to do with the kinds of basic competence necessary to play a leadership role in the vegan movement. And as I say, we saw that play out in dramatic fashion, even with the fall from grace of somebody like Gary Yourofsky, whom, at least I guess could speak in complete sentences, unlike people like Stella Rae and Tim Shieff here. So look, guys, ultimately this stuff doesn't matter because it's just a few eccentrics. The problem is that these are the few eccentrics who are the best and brightest and most prominent voices for the future of the movement. And no, I don't just mean on YouTube. I mean in the whole world, full stop, period. Get off YouTube if you really think there's something better off YouTube. Go take a look at the peer-reviewed academic literature on veganism. It's pathetic. Go take a look at the academic conferences on animal rights and veganism. Go take a look at the people doing campouts for animal rights near you. If you think YouTube is shining a light on the worst aspects of this movement, you're wrong. YouTube, like any other spotlight, is tending to highlight and draw out the best, the most flattering aspects of the movement. Once you get off YouTube, once you start dealing with the people who are not comfortable coming on camera, coming on the microphone, engaging in debate and discussion about what their views are and what they want for the future movement, if you think it gets brighter in the darkness, you're wrong. Surprise! It gets darker. The spotlight, for all the disadvantages it may have, at least gives us an opportunity to look in the mirror and see our own flaws. Dun, 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 dun.